All right, everybody, welcome back to the best damn training channel on YouTube. Yesterday was a tempo day. Exact same thing I did from a few videos back where I had like how-to tempo video. I did that same thing. I just added extra volume yesterday. So I did 2 extra reps. Week 1 on tempo work, we did 10 hundreds. This week we're doing 12 hundreds. We also have some other tempo days coming up later on this week. And those are all essentially the same program. So I didn't want to film that and just get repetitive on those videos because it's literally the exact same thing, just more volume. But today on the track, we're going to be focusing on 20s and 30s, doing this as a technique refinement at high efforts. So I'm going to be trying to do like 90-95% efforts on these 20s and 30s, focusing on trying to make it feel as good as possible, feel smooth, feel like I'm hitting my positions. We're gonna do 3 20s, 3 30s. We're gonna do some pogo variations, and then we're gonna go into the weight room and do some upper body work for the weight room today. I'm just finishing up with the last part of my warm up today, which I'm gonna be doing my 2 hard steps, 4 hard steps, 6 hard steps, and then I'm gonna put the spikes on, we'll turn all the cones on, and we'll start getting some times on these 20s and these 30s. This is also the same day that you guys saw me with Coach AT, which that video last week was training with the national champion. So we're just progressing from last week to this week, adding more volume on the 20s and 30s. We're gonna do those same pogo variations, and we're gonna be adding a little bit more on the weight room side of things. Starting off 2 hard steps. I like to end my warm-ups with some max effort stuff to allow myself to get ready, kind of like, I call it knocking off the rust. Like usually if you warm up and you haven't done anything at maximum intent yet, and you just throw the spikes on and you go for it, that first rep, maybe the first 2 reps are a bit rusty because you're still kind of warming up. So these hard takeoffs allow me to kind of knock that rust off a little bit. So I go 2 hard steps and I kind of jog it out 10-15 meters. Then I'll go 4, jog it out 10-15. Then I'll go 6, which should bring me out close to around 10 meters. Jog that out again for about 10-15 meters. So I'm getting in 20 meters, 25 meters, 30 meters of work. And I'm doing this at high efforts through the first phase. And that's kind of the knocking the rust off. Like do some explosive max effort things prior to just lacing them up and going after it. So 2 hard steps here. And the rest on this is just kind of walk it back, take a few breathers, 4 hard steps. You don't need a lot of rest for 2 hard steps. Walk it back, take a second, set up, and now we'll go 4 hard steps. And we're gonna do the same thing, 6 hard steps. That'll bring us out close to about 10, so we're doing essentially a hard 10-meter sprint here. And then we'll lace it up. We're gonna start with some 20s. And the reason I want these to be at like 90-95%, like I said, this is kind of technique refinement, but the amount of frequency that we're doing on the track right now is very high. Like I'm on the track 5 days a week right now. Mondays, we have the resisted acceleration work. Tuesdays, we're doing with tempo work, so low intensity, just higher volume. Wednesdays, we're doing acceleration technique work. So we're doing high efforts, 95% efforts on these. And we're doing 20s and 30s. Tomorrow is gonna be another tempo day, but I'm switching up the med ball work to do more dynamic med ball work. So I'll film tomorrow and get that up for you guys because I think that would be an interesting way for you guys to get some additional core work in, to feel like you're getting some work in on these tempo days, because sometimes tempo days can get real boring. It's hard while you're doing it, but then 10-15 minutes after you're done, you feel like you haven't really done much. So tomorrow will be a good video for those who want to get a little bit more dynamic, feel like they're putting in some effort on those low intensity days without having to really blow yourself up. Friday is that acceleration plus, so we're adding in more specific max velocity work, and we're focusing more on like a flying 10, but I've set that up in a different way that I've done previously, and you guys will see that on Friday. And then Saturday is like an optional day. Saturday is optional tempo again, and then additional core work if you'd like. So that's 5 days that are programmed, 6 days potentially if you want to get some more work in, for those that are kind of like the volume freaks and want to feel like they're getting something done every single day. So with that being 3 days of like max effort sprinting, 2 days of low intensity volume work, I want to focus one of those days on refining technique because I'm going to be out here a lot of days. So I can take one of those 3 sprint days and focus on getting a little bit more technical, but getting technical at high effort, so 90%, 95%. What I'm really trying to do is not just go full blown sprint my ass off today. I want to put these at a little bit more controlled efforts, still really fast. That way I can focus on how things are feeling. I'll have the timing eyes up, I'll have the chip, I can see my stride length, my frequencies, I can see my times, my mile an hours, all the splits from 0 to 30 as well. So that's what today is gonna end up being. So I've been talking way too long. Let me get in these 6 hard steps here. All right, so I got all the cones set up now. My legs are feeling pretty good considering the fact that last week I was a bit beat up being on the track that many days. We're gonna be doing 320s here. I've got 0 to 10 measuring, I've got 10 to 20 measuring, and I've got 0 to 20 measuring on this as well. Like I said, I want these to be at like 95%. So I'm gonna be throttling it down ever so slightly. Like I'm not trying to put in maximum effort on these. I'm trying to go hard though, if that makes any sense. Legs are feeling a little bit heavy, but overall, that was a decent rep. 303 on that one, 183 on that first 10, 120 on that second 10. So that puts me about 95% from that 115, 117 range. So I'm at that place I want to be. All right, so plan is for rep 2 here. Same thing. What I want to focus on though, is I feel like recently these first 3 steps have been hit and miss. Sometimes I get it and it feels incredible. Sometimes I miss it and I feel like I'm standing up, or maybe I'm hitting my foot out in front of me a little bit too much. So what I'm gonna focus on is the same thing I told Alec when we were sprinting, is like keep my head and my shoulders pointing in the direction that I wanna go and just get into that extension before I wanna drive that next foot down. But I gotta be quick when I do that so that transition isn't slow. I don't wanna cast myself out by like turning that first 3 steps into a bound. So I'm just trying to get to extension and then switch it as quickly as I can. It's a graceful aggression, aggressively pushing through the ground, aggressively driving that lead leg up, aggressively switching it, but being patient enough to be able to get through extension without trying to shorten that up and become real choppy and sloppy through that first 10 meters. So rep number 2 here. That one felt better. Felt like I got more open between 10 to 20 for sure. Yeah, same thing happened though. I got 13 seconds. I'm triggering that front eye too soon. So something I'm doing is triggering the eye in my setup. I think I got it a little bit too close. That was my best feeling 0 to 10 right there. That first 3 steps felt incredible. But again, I try and, dude, what is going on? 1078. So again, I'm triggering this sensor, but 118 from 10 to 20. So consistent with the previous 2 10 to 20. So we'll just go off that. For whatever reason, my setup is triggering that front eye. All right, so I've repositioned the cones a little bit. So I've given myself a little bit more distance on this lead cone so I can set up without triggering that first 10, because for whatever reason, my setup right now, this cone is too close and I'm not able to get into position without setting the timer off. So everything is moved back about 10 centimeters to give myself a little bit of room. Now, with that being the case, I'm not going to be able to compare these times directly to my 20-meter times because the cones are going to be in a slightly different position, but I will be able to compare each 30 to each other to make sure that I'm maintaining intensity on each of these repetitions here. So we got 30 meters set up, 3 reps on this, and we're going to go ahead and get rep number 1 here. All right, before we get into the plows today, let me break down what I feel like is going on with these sessions today. I'm not gonna use the 20s as an example because I didn't get readings on these first 10s, so we'll get rid of these here. But on my 330s, I was very consistent, let's say between 10 to 20 and 20 to 30. So my 10 to 20s and 20 to 30s were all in like that mid to high teens like I thought it was gonna be. 116 was my fastest 10 to 20, 119 was my slowest 10 to 20. So I'm very disciplined and I'm able to maintain intensities at that specific range when doing multiple repetitions. Same thing you can see with the 20 to 30. I did a 106, 107, 107. The 10 to 20, 20 to 30 are very consistent. I'm able to maintain that intensity, work on refining that technique and the feel of what positions I should still be in, keeping my head down a little bit, driving through, being able to maintain those positions for that 20-meter zone. The issue that I'm having right now is consistency from 0 to 10. So my first rep, you can see here, is a 165. Now 165 is a little bit skewed because I had to move the cones a little bit to give myself room to set up. But because the cones are in the exact same spot, I'm able to compare that to rep 2 and 3, where rep 2, you see a 174, and then rep 3, you see a 180. So a couple things are happening right here. Could be fatigue, could be the fact that those are reps number 5 and 6 for the day, and I'm just getting a little bit tired and getting a little bit sloppy when it comes to technique while being a little bit fatigued. Going off of the numbers and going off of how I feel like as I am getting fatigued, I pop up a little bit more. I'm not staying as disciplined throughout that first 10 meters. And as fatigue sets in, I'm trying harder to run. But what this also shows you is an example of how that first 10 can set up for your max velocity. So obviously a 165, I'm gonna say that's probably my best 10 for the day. That led me to 21.1 miles an hour at that 20 to 30 range. A 1.8, even though I'm still hitting relatively the same number on that 20 to 30 range, sets me up to just under 21 miles an hour. So that first 10, having slower velocities, isn't allowing me to transition into max velocity as efficiently because I got to make up for time lost in that first 10, if that makes sense. I'm not too concerned about this right now because it's week 2 of what's going to be a 12-week program, and we still have a lot of work when it comes to working on acceleration and developing the capacity to do 6 hard repetitions at that 95-ish% range. That's what the tempo work is going to help kind of build up. This first 4 weeks is a GPP phase, and we're focusing on building up capacity, and we have a lot of volume that we're doing today. So I'm not too concerned about seeing some slower numbers than what I would like to see on these numbers here. But in terms of like looking at today as a whole, what I'm seeing is like fatigue is setting in, I'm getting a little bit sloppier, and we need to refine that when we come in next week to work on that. So before I get into the weight room, I'm going to do some pogos. I got a couple sets of 20 meters. I'm going to just do light, easy pogos. And then I got a couple sets of some 3+1 pogos. So 3 easy pogos into 1 pogo for maximum height, and then 3 easies into 1 for maximum height again. We'll knock out those and then we'll head into the weight room. I got bench press, I got some rows, and we got some other accessory stuff I'm going to do for today's upper body work. And as I get into the weight room, we'll chat a little bit about that as well, the setup for my upper body days on this Summer of Speed program. But first, let's knock out some pogos. All right, so when it comes to upper body work on the Summer of Speed program, I didn't put a lot of focus on this day, mainly because this type of stuff isn't going to positively affect our end goal of trying to run as fast as we can. But I do feel like totally neglecting upper body work could have a negative toll in terms of keeping the full body chain strong and durable throughout this program. So we have one main upper body session, which is going to be today. The sets and reps on everything and the intensities are going to match what the lower body is, but the frequency of that upper body is going to be a lot lower, to where we're not really focused on building strength or any sort of hypertrophy when it comes to the upper body work. We're just doing enough so that we don't become detrained and we don't build weak links, because even having a weaker upper body could have a negative effect on overall performance. Now, when we're talking about sprinting, is it saying that if you have a weak bench press, are you going to be slow? Or if you have a strong bench press, are you going to be fast? No. But continually training the full body and being able to get work done on the lower body and work on the upper body keeps the chain in whole, keeps everything feeling good and strong. And then when we transition into the next program, where we are going to be focusing more a little bit on the upper body strength stuff and doing more specific hypertrophy work and strength work and power work for the upper body, we're not going from point zero again because we haven't trained it for 12 weeks. This day here, if you're following this program along and you're subscribed to the online training program, you could do this as hard as you want, or you can stick to the plan the way that it's written out. It's not really going to matter. You could blow yourself up one time a week, every single week, on the bench press, on some pull-up, on your upper body work, and that's not going to negatively affect tomorrow's tempo work. You might be a little bit more sore, you might be a little bit more stiff in the upper body, but you're still gonna be able to do tomorrow's tempo work. You're still gonna be able to do tomorrow's med ball work. So this is just here, basically be a maintenance for upper body. We're not looking at building anything specific for the upper body strength work. So since we've been doing 8s on the lower body stuff, I've been maintaining 8s as my rep ranges for my main lifts on the upper body. I'm staying below 70% on my bench press for the last 2 weeks. I'll probably build up to 70% as my heaviest set next week. But right now we're between 65 to 67.5%-ish on the bench press, and we're gonna do 3 sets of 8 here. And then as we make progressions on the lower body, those progressions will follow with the bench press, because this is going to be our main upper body. Everything else we do with upper body is really going to be accessory focus. We've got some pull-ups, we got some row variations, we'll do some back extension stuff. We're going to do another variation of pull-ups later on this week. So we'll do one more set on that, and then gonna move over to some weighted pull-ups. Now, one way I'm keeping intensity with some upper body stuff is I'm going harder on things like the pull-ups and the dumbbell rows, since I am doing a lot more volume on pulling versus pressing. So I got 20 kilos here on my weighted pull-ups, and I'll do 4 sets of 5 on these. So more of a strength focus rep range, but also I'm doing a lot more volume on the pulling variations. So I've got these plus rows plus more pulling variation later on in the week. So rather than doing like sets of 8 on everything and having a lot of volume on that, I'm kind of spreading the volume out across those 3 to 4 different pulling exercises I have over the course of a week. So 4 sets of 5 here. And then we got our last row variation for the day, dumbbell rows, 8 reps on each side, 2 to 3 sets total on this. I'll probably do 3. Moderate-ish type weight. I got 40 kilos, so that's 88 pounds or so. Dumbbell row variation versus barbell, because in the last program that I was on, strictly strength, I did a lot of barbell rowing variations. So I'm just trying to switch it up a little bit here. And like I said, upper body stuff, if you're only hitting it once a week, and that's basically what I'm doing. I got another pull-up variation I'm gonna do later on this week. But if you're only hitting upper body once a week, although I've programmed this to be moderate, you could hammer it if you want. Like if that's something that you like to do and you want to feel like you're getting a good pump, or you're still working on some strength stuff with the upper body, just destroy yourself. It doesn't matter. Like I said, like your legs are gonna be fine tomorrow for tempos. Your legs are gonna be fine for Friday for the acceleration plus session. Like you're not going to really have a negative effect overall in the course of each microcycle. So each week, by destroying your upper body once a week, it's not going to have a negative effect. And then over the course of 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8, 10, 12, whatever it might be, you're not going to see, oh, I benched too hard, or I went too hard on my dumbbell rows or my barbell rows, and that's the reason why I didn't get as fast as like that doesn't happen. Like, we're only hitting it 1 time a week. Once every 7 days, you're not going to have a negative effect on that. So just blow it up if you want to, or stick with the progressions, stick with the loading parameters, and focus more on the lower body days and the sprinting, because that's what this program is about. And then one of the last couple things I'm gonna do is a back extension on the GHD. Like I said, I'm gonna be building up the erectors, or at least focusing on that on my upper body day and trying to get a little bit more strength through that low back as well. So we're gonna be doing a back extension on the GHD. The way that I would like this set up is where when my feet are locked in here, I want my hips to be somewhere on top. So like that hip crease in the middle, I want there to be somewhere on top. And I'm gonna be focusing on getting flexion and extension through the hip a little bit. And I'm also going to be focusing on getting a little bit of flexion and extension through the thoracic. So a lot of times people get on here and they keep their upper body very rigid when doing a back extension on the GHD, and they're just in this position here. And while you will feel that in your low back, really what this is this is a hip extension, because my back isn't actually flexing and extending. So when I come down, I want to come down and round myself a little bit, and then I'm going to pull myself up and round and pull. So I'm going to just do 2 sets of this variation here. I can still feel it in my low back, but I can also feel it more in that middle thoracic range as well. And that way I can hit more of the total erector versus just doing a hip extension, which would look more stiff and rigid on that upper body. So think about shoulders down, point the top of your head towards the floor, and then extend. Ooh, that's enough. And don't be a baby when it comes to your low back. A lot of people, as soon as they feel any sort of discomfort, any sort of soreness, anything in their low back, they associate that with an injury, and that's not what's going on. You got muscles down there, there's joints, there's ligaments. Everything is the same as if it was a quad, as if it was your chest, shoulders, triceps, your hamstrings, whatever it might be. Low back being tight, low back being sore means that it's been targeted somehow, and now it needs to either get stronger or it's adapting to the stress that you're giving it so it can get stronger. So don't be afraid to have a sore low back or a tight low back. It doesn't mean injury, and I don't know why, but a lot of people, they love it when their arms are sore. They love it when their chest is sore, but as soon as the low back feels anything, all of a sudden it's, oh, I gotta take it easy. You know, my low back is tight, my low back is sore. That's not what's going on. It's called adaptation. It experienced stress, and it's going through the process of adapting to that stress and getting stronger. So hammer your low back. It's okay for it to be sore. So the last thing I'm gonna be doing for today is another core exercise. And I originally was gonna do this on the GHD, but Tim Riley had an amazing post yesterday about the myth that you don't need to train your core because it gets trained by doing other compound lifts and yada, yada, yada. So I've always said, if it can flex and extend, then you should be able to train it. Your abs, your core, your obliques, your erectors, those all flex, they all extend, they all experience some sort of stress, whether it's directly or indirectly. So why not target them directly if you're gonna do so? So the variation I also saw in his post yesterday, which is why I'm changing this up today, is a single leg sort of sit-up variation. You're gonna be anchoring down one of your feet with a dumbbell, and then the other leg is gonna stay up off the ground, and you're gonna extend through the hip, trying to brace and maintain stability with your core, putting a lot of stress on the hip flexor and the psoas. And then you're going to think about pulling your foot up against this weight to be able to flex at the hip and then bring yourself back up to the top here. So I'm going to be doing 2 sets of 8 on this. So what it will look like is you'd like to start with this knee being around 90 degrees. Lay back,
get a good stretch into that hip flexor, pull with your foot. Do A reps on one side, and we'll go A reps to the other. Whew. And then there you have it. So that is a sprint and upper body session for the Summer of Speed. And it was a damn good day. So I appreciate y'all for watching the best damn training channel on YouTube. If you like what you see here, make sure to like the video. If you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. Other than that, I'll catch you on the next one.